We're going to make a very simple, very quick ARDI application. This isn't how we suggest you actually do large applications, but if you're doing something small, it's probably quite adequate. We're going to start by naming our site. To do that, or to edit any asset properties, you click the asset in the diagram and hit Details. Click on the asset or property you want to change, in this case the name, and hit Save. All done. So we've now renamed our site. The next thing we want to do is make the object that we're going to play with. So this is going to be a pump, a water pump. Simply hit Add this asset. Put in any information we happen to know. So these are for unique IDs. Hit Create. And that's it. Our asset's created. Now it's time to go in and have a look. So we can't position it until there's an environment to position it in. So we're going to go to our site and create the environment. We don't have any fancy 3D models or photos for it. We're just going to say, make this 3D environment, create an empty environment. Choose your size. This just makes a big empty space to put objects into. Now we can go to our pump, hit Details, set the location, have a look at the map, and place it. You simply click where you want it to be, and then drag out the size. All done. It's placed on the map, and it's placed on 3D. At the moment, though, it doesn't have an appearance, so it still won't show up in VR. To do that, we have to first import a model. Now, this is a model from our library. It's a pump. We've just got a zip file that includes all the information it needs. Simply drag it in or browse for it, and hit Add Model. There we go. A Wallman pump is in our library. Now we've imported the 3D model, but now we actually need to assign it to the asset. So let's go there. Placement in 3D. Set the appearance. This page always takes a little while to load, I'm afraid, just because of the 3D preview that's loading in the corner. You go through the little taxonomy to pick the final model, and then also pick the skin. So some models have several different appearances depending on manufacture. Some of them have very clean and dirty. There we go. It's all assigned, it's all set up. It's now visible in VR. To make it available in AR, we need to set its AR marker number. So go to the properties list, choose AR marker from the list, and assign it an ID. There we go. Our asset works in AR and VR. I suppose we should give it a little bit of information. So let's define a property. We're going to go with pressure, temperature, something like that. Let's choose temperature. Alright, we pick a type for that property. In this case, it's an analog value. Choose the correct display units. Set the range for the measurement. The number of decimal places we'd like to see. And that should have us pretty well set up. There's quite a few little options for properties, but that's around about it. Now we just need to assign that property to our pump. We can search for it this time. Hit the Edit button. Choose the property name from the list. And fill in the value. We'll link this to live data later. There we go. Now let's just take a look and make sure everything worked. Here we are in ARDI. So we'll do our initial connection. Now a lot of these steps that you're seeing are the things you've only got to do once or very occasionally. But we've decided to show you a from scratch configuration. So we choose our server. We choose the site on that server we want to connect to if it happens to be a multi-site server. We connect. And there is our lovely little model. So let's go down, take a closer look. When you've only got one asset in your model, the camera moves relatively slowly. But we can see it. It's a little bit stretched out at the moment. We'll fix that shortly. We can click to see the temperature that we defined. We'll go into edit mode and just fix up its alignment a little bit. We can push the link button to set it to its natural size and orientation. We can move it around the scene. We can spin it around a little bit. So we have the ability to fine-tune its position, scale, and rotation. So there you go. Functional, one asset working. If you want to add more pumps, it's literally a couple of seconds work per pump. The last thing we're going to do is connect it to some data coming in from an external source. The first thing we have to do to enable that is to install drivers. So drivers allow a communication channel to be created. In this case, we're going to go with a text file driver for our live information and another text file driver for our history information. Now, these don't set up the links themselves, it just installs all the options needed to actually connect. We still need to define the actual sources of data. And just like everything else in ARDI, your sources of data are assets too. So we're going to go in and create a place to keep our data sources. We'll call it infrastructure, but you could call it server room or however everything's all built. So now we're going to build an asset for our historian. There we go. So we go into the asset, we choose data sources, and now we can set up the actual sources of information. So we want a text file, it's located at this particular location. Now, these drivers can be to any major historian, it can be to SQL databases. You could go to just random drivers as well for testing purposes. There's quite a range available, and there's the facility to make your own if you're trying to talk to a particularly obscure little system. But once all the options are set, the drivers are started, and connections can be made. So now we've built our historian, we've told it how to actually connect to the data source. What we need to do is tell it to link the property that we created to that data source. You hit the link button next to any particular property, choose what data source you want it to connect it to. In this case, we've only got one, the historian, and type in the address. Now, for complex data sources like Modbus PLCs, there might be several parameters to enter here. Do always remember, if you link it to live, you should also link it to history. Sometimes those tags are exactly the same, sometimes they're quite different. And there we go. We are connected to data. We're getting a different temperature now. We can click to ask for a chart. So if we were talking to a Modbus simulator, that data would be changing live. We're connected and ready to go.